Welcome to the channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you're not. Today I'm going to be reviewing the newest Godzilla movie, Godzilla Minus One, which I just saw opening night last night. But first, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and if you've seen Godzilla Minus One already, let me know how you liked it down in the comments below. I try to respond to every single comment I get, so make sure you comment and let me know what you thought. So before I give you my goods and bads about the movie, let's run through a brief plot synopsis real quick. So the movie follows a post-World War II Japan now at its lowest point when suddenly a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster. So right off the bat, I just want to preface my review by letting you guys know I'm a very casual Godzilla fan. I've liked some of the movies and seen some of them kind of here and there, but by no means am I like an expert or anything like that when it comes to like the lore, the story, or any of that kind of stuff. So if I screw something up here, I'm sorry to all you kind of diehard Godzilla fans, okay? So if you're a casual Godzilla fan like me, you might be asking, why is it called Godzilla Minus One? Well, according to everything I could find out, it's called that because Japan was essentially at zero after the destruction of World War II. And now that Godzilla's here, they aren't even at zero anymore. They're now at -1, essentially, in a way. So Godzilla Minus One is a Japanese movie and is the 37th in the Godzilla franchise. Yes, 37th movie. And it's the 5th film in what they call the franchise's Reiwa era. The Reiwa era is essentially just a term that they use to identify a series of Japanese films in the franchise released from 2016 kind of onwards. Since 2016, they've kind of taken a bit of like an anthology approach, beginning with the standalone 2016 film Shin Godzilla, and then branching out into kind of unrelated anime trilogies, which began releasing in 2017 and ended in 2018. And then they had animated movies that came out. I think there were 3 of them that came out on Netflix as well. Now, this movie just came out in the US, but has already been out in Japan for about a month or so, and has already almost doubled its budget and just overall revenue. It's honestly pretty damn impressive this movie was made for only about $15 million. And like I said, this is a Japanese movie and it's all in subtitles, so just a heads up there if that is or isn't really your thing. It doesn't bother me personally at all, honestly. It probably makes me pay attention more, if anything. But anyways, enough of all that. Now let's get into some of the things I think the movie does well. First, I want to mention I enjoyed the opening sequence of the movie and how that kind of tied into the later stages of the movie. Oftentimes, a movie will open with a big action scene or something to kind of hook you in, but it's really just there to grab your attention and doesn't really lead into anything more than that usually. But in this movie, the big opening scene where our main character lands his plane on Little Odo Island to get repaired, and the people he meets on that island are a massive part of kind of the last act of the movie. And I enjoyed that they tied that all in. I also really like that our main character that we follow in the story, now I'm going to butcher a lot of these names, but Ryosuke Kamiki does an incredible job playing Koichi Shikishima, and is definitely a character that, although has his flaws, it is very likable as we kind of follow him as he essentially has to completely start over his entire life after World War II. But I also really like that the movie does a solid job showing us this kind of post-traumatic stress from the war and how that affects his life for the next several years. And I already mentioned that I was impressed that this movie was made for $15 million, but the movie to me was definitely visually pretty damn stunning. I mean, a movie like The Meg 2 that just came out this year was made for $130 million. And yes, I can see kind of a few things in there that justifies a higher budget for that movie. But I feel like they did a great job making moments feel big and epic on a pretty damn modest budget to me. Now, if you're a dad like me, this movie is definitely going to hit you in the feels throughout a lot of the moments. I teared up a couple times, and I just thought the director did a really good job just navigating the heartbreaking story of this little girl who's had so much tragedy in her life, and how her kind of story intertwines with our main character who's also been through so much. Another positive that I want to mention was I really enjoyed the dynamic between our main character and his eventual co-workers that he came across. The main character ends up basically getting this job to get rid of old mines in the ocean from World War II. It was a pretty dangerous job, but he takes it out of basically just desperation. But that leads to a hell of a bond between the 4 of them on the boat and really helps to get the main character through all these years after the war. I also thought, the co-worker, that one guy who was always kind of keeping him in line, was a great character. He's like that no bullshit kind of guy who would say things like, "You're not doing that. You better marry her." And I just feel like everyone needs someone like that in their life that just kind of helps to keep them straight. Now, the last positive that I want to mention was the ending to the movie, which I thought kept me on the edge of my seat and kept me engaged. I wanted to see what the eventual outcome would be. The ending does definitely have some flaws, which I'll talk about in a moment, but overall, I enjoyed the ending. Now to get into some of the negatives in the movie. There's one point in the movie where a pretty important character kind of sacrifices themselves in a way that felt kind of completely unnecessary to me. It was one of those moments almost like Jack not getting on the door after the Titanic sank. It was one of those, it was like kind of an audience. You just were like, what are you doing? Why don't you do this instead of that? Just a kind of a small little nitpick, but a moment that I was just kind of thinking, what's going on here? Now, my next negative is going to be with Godzilla. Now, this could be where that budget comes into play, but visually, I thought Godzilla kind of on the surface looked great. Definitely looked like something that would come out of the ocean, like an old sunken ship resurfacing with like barnacles and wear and tear on it and stuff like that. I liked that. But my gripe with the character has more so to do with like the way the Godzilla moved in the movie. Maybe this was a creative decision because of a classic approach to the character. Let me know down in the comments below if that is, but I felt like Godzilla was too robotic through most of the movie. When he was in the water, I didn't feel that way, but anytime his body was out of the water, it seemed like a literal robot just kind of staring straight ahead and just moving like very robotically. I don't know, I didn't really like that. And my last negative I want to mention does have to do with the ending, and to me, I thought it was a very predictable ending. Although pulled off pretty well in my opinion, but nothing at the end for the most part surprised me outside of maybe one last little detail at the very end. It was kind of one of those straightforward Hollywood type endings that we've kind of seen 1,000 times. All right, now here are my final thoughts on Godzilla -1. I would say through the first half of the movie, it was kind of just okay, and I was a little bit skeptical whether I'd enjoy it or not. But I thought the last half of the movie was pretty damn good. It had me choking up at times. It had some epicness to it too. And I enjoyed that it wasn't just a monster getting shot by tanks and airplanes for 2 hours. This was more of a character-driven story about this guy navigating a post-World War II country with a little extra hurdle in life that a giant monster is trying to destroy his city. So I'd recommend seeing Godzilla -1 in the theaters if you can. If you've already seen it, let me know down in the comments down below whether you liked it or not. Love to hear what you guys thought. But anyways, thanks for watching. Here I'll link for you my review of the Meg 1 and Meg 2 if you're interested in checking those out. But I'm Matt McFarland, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.